Hey everybody, I just want to make this video because I want to explore the idea of freedom. And the reason why I wanted to explore freedom in America, or just the concept or idea of freedom, but more specifically in America, is because it seems like a lot of our politicians and my fellow Americans are always explaining how much freedom we have in America. But then like freedom is relative, right? Like compared to who? But then like if we were to compare it within ourselves, I would say that perhaps we're losing a lot of our freedoms. Now, I I thought from my ignorant point of view that freedom was the ability to obtain these things in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Food, physiological needs, safety needs, love, esteem, and self-actualization. And so I find that are we losing our freedoms? Because you need one of these things to like help the other. So if you have air, water, and food, you can build your shelters, obtain sleep, produce clothing, and reproduction. Without these things, then it's hard to have freedoms to do things. Safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, property. So maybe I'll go over this real quick and then maybe like dive more into like what is freedom in America, because I've been wanting to know as an Eagle Scout. I've been wanting to figure out what is freedom nowadays to people. So in America, our air quality is getting worse. Water quality is, I don't really know too much about that. Obtaining food, okay, obtaining food and water. Actually, let's just redo this. To obtain air, food, and water, the better your economic position, the better you can obtain these things. What I mean is, if you want better air, you can move to a place where there's better air. If you want water and food, you want higher quality of waters, you have to pay for it. If you want higher quality of foods or food in general, you need to pay for these things. And with the purchasing power of each individual going down in the United States, it's harder to obtain high quality foods, high quality water, and high quality of air. And there was probably some points in time where it was good, bad, or it fluctuates over time in the quality and how easy it is to obtain or how hard it is. Obtaining shelter is becoming harder. Obtaining sleep is becoming harder because you need to work more to obtain all these other resources. To obtain clothing, it's harder because you need to everything. The purchasing power is going down, and the incentive to reproduce, or like the resources available to reproduce, are becoming more scarce because we have less access to these essential things. Therefore, the cost of reproducing goes up and our resources to reproduce go down. Personal security. When you have an economy declining like the United States, or just there's constraints in the economy, or there's hard times, then people need their personal security. So they're going to try to get these one way or another. And this can be by taking it from others, or whether it be legally or not. Employment. Seeking employment is fairly easy, but the jobs and employment opportunities are becoming less and less desirable. The working conditions are becoming less or worse. Um, Production output versus wages have gapped even further. So let's just take a look. Wages, yes. So we could just skim through this. It's probably just a general idea, but let's see. Okay. Oh, this is just 2014. Let's look at 2023. Okay, so this doesn't go up to 2023, but it does go up to 2020. And you can see like ever since the 80s or 90s or 1985, productivity has gone up while compensation has not matched that. So, of course, resources and access to goods are going to become cheaper. And, there's a lot of things like maybe it's easier to obtain things like phones, fridges, technologies, and things like that. But is it becoming harder to access these resources like high quality air, high quality water, high quality food, high quality shelter? And are we working more because our productivity is going up and the demand for our cost of living is going up as well? our access to like, well, clothing, basically, with the, let's see, United States. Since the 1800s and up until, well, 1930, the United States has just been in a decline. And I don't know if this is like year over year comparisons or if this is like relative to the previous year percentage gains or not. I don't know how this is exactly calculated, but we can just look at these general like graphs, and the trend is going down. We don't know. I don't know if this is like percentage based, like, so like the numbers could be a bit deceiving, but yeah, as you can tell, in bad times, fewer babies are born. Yeah, so like this is something we learned in like in geography, where if it's just like think about it like this: if your fish tank, if you want your fish to breed, you got to give them like the best resources and resources to breed. If the fish find that there's just not enough good resources, they will, if they have a brain or some kind of like, if they have some kind of a autonomy or something or sense, they won't reproduce. So, or they will, they're guppies, but yeah, some fish are more likely to produce if the conditions are good. If there's good resources, the water quality is good, the oxygenation levels are good, the temperature is good, the amount of food is good, they will reproduce more. Um, Personal security is going to be something that's gone over time because, legally or not, people are going to take that from each other. Employment opportunities, yeah, again, wages are going down. Resources, there's just less resources available, and there are a lot of resources in this world, but just the way things are structured, it's harder to obtain things, whether it be from zoning laws for shelter or how we place foods or who monopolizes foods and our resources or our energy. And this leads towards, yes, age is going up, but I believe that the average age of death is going down. So like perhaps we are trending up, but people are dying at younger ages now because of less access to affordable health. Property, the right to own property, this is also going down too because zoning laws, how we manage supply and demand for these houses, and there's just a lot of reasons why these things can happen. But I don't want to get too into that. Friendship, intimacy, family, and sense of connection. These things will go down as technology improves. Now, you could utilize technology in a good way, but are people responsible enough to do that? Do we have that capability? Yes, but are we trained to do that? Maybe not. Like not to abuse technologies, friendships, intimacies, families, and all the resources we have available to us. Are we utilizing these resources in a positive way to benefit our lives, or are we like picking up, less than favorable methods of how we utilize these new technologies? Like, are we addicted to our phones? Are we meeting up online rather than seeing each other in person? Are we less intimate because of all the distractions? Are we less family oriented because of all the new types of cultures, values, and beliefs? And do we have that sense of connection that we did before? Esteem is like respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength. Do we have these things in a world where like we have access to like seeing the best parts of people's lives via social media, or do we have less access to this because now we're comparing ourselves to people more than ever because we have instant access to like social media or just things like that where we can see like wealth disparities? Do we see more inequalities in our economic system because like in a place like Hawaii, for example, there's such a classism because you have a bunch of poor people who are stuck in like poverty traps, and then you have a bunch of wealthy people exploiting these people, and you just see like this huge class disparity. And as the classes, are the economic classes also becoming more dispersed, and like is the middle class, or is there like further classes that are being created that are further down, and is there more concentration of resources at the top? Do we see like more of these things being eroded, you know, respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. Like, do we respect people who actually build and like essential employees? Did we really care about our essential employees during COVID? I mean, not all of them work, you know, prestigious jobs, you know, but they're essential nonetheless. You know, did we celebrate them? No, we didn't. Did we honor them? No, we did not. Did we respect them? Did that help their self-esteem? Did their status go up? Were they recognized? Were there no, none of these things were validated. And if you're an essential employee and you were forced to work during the COVID-19, did you have freedom? No, you didn't have freedom because you didn't have freedom to opt out of work. You were forced to work, okay, during that the whole fiasco in 2020 or in 2021. So where was your freedom? Well, you didn't have that. Desire to become the most that one can be. Do people have that anymore? Do they have the time or resources to do it anymore? Is it harder because of all these distractions? Is it harder without these types of love and belonging and support networks? Is it harder because we have unfavorable employment positions, lack of security, lack of resources, lack of health, lack of property? Is it harder because we have lower quality of air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and reproduction? So, what is freedom in the United States? I would have to wonder. Okay, let's just see. This is the first thing that comes up. In the private lives, Americans are free to live where they wish. I guess so. You can live, you can exist, but the conditions become worse. And if we reference the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, I guess we could. You know, you could live in like, you could live in Stanford, you can live in that area, in San Francisco, but like, you might be homeless. You can live in Hawaii, but you might be homeless. Um, the three types of freedom is freedom from states of society. Well, I feel like we're losing that because we have to become more and more aligned with whatever society wants, or the government, or businesses. Second is freedom to do what we want. Well, we're losing that as well. But I guess if you have a gun, you can do whatever you want. Well, not really, but you have the power to kill the president if you really wanted to, at the cost of your own life, of course. Thirdly, there is freedom to be freedom to be, not just do what we want, but a freedom to be who we were meant to be. So this is harder. This is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this could be hard. All these three things are harder to obtain, and because they're harder to obtain, they're less. You know, you're less likely to do them. What are ideas of American freedoms? Speech. Okay, so we might have access to free speech to some extent, but the repercussions for free speech is becoming worse and worse. Like we are becoming more punished for our ideas and our autonomy. And if we don't go with the herd, then we are punished numerous ways that really I don't know if we can afford that. Can we afford that freedom? Like, can we afford the freedom of speech, or do we need to obey and follow? Do we have freedom of religion? Like, if you believe in like Judaism, are you punished for that? If you believe in Christianity, are you mocked for that? Okay, freedom of the press. Yeah, I guess so. But with how much control there is, you can have access to freedom of speech, religion, press, and assembly. But, you know, it's like they can be dismantled in numerous ways. Assembly, yeah, you can assemble, but does it matter if you assemble? Because you would have to make such a big assembly that that would do something, but like to assemble might not do anything. And the right to petition, because you know we're all so sedated by propaganda and media, and just we don't have the strength to like unify and fix things in our country. But the way the country is structured, whether it be like economics, you know, people are incentivized to do wrong things. Socially, people are incentivized to do wrong things. So it's kind of like a death spiral in a sense, and you'd have to change a lot of values and systems to promote better behavior. The right to petition the government, yeah, you could, but like, will that really do anything? Depending on your situation. So it's not that we really aren't. And like the essential employees during the 2020 and 2021, they were forced to work, right? Did it matter that they had freedom of speech to be against, forced slavery in a sense, modern day slavery? Did religion matter at that point? Did assembly matter or do anything? No, they were still forced to work. They couldn't afford freedom. So yes, there's freedoms in this in America, but to obtain these freedoms, they're becoming harder and harder, and that's my main point. And to me, I think the idea of freedoms are just becoming worse, and the levels of freedoms that we had, people just can't afford them anymore. And you know what? Maybe I'll go make a part two when I actually do more research. But this is just my own opinion, and so I just wondered, because I don't know if the United States has the freedoms that we once did. And if we criticize other countries for lacking freedoms or democracies or whatnot, I think we should look at our own. Because a few examples, the essential employees during COVID, like we didn't treat them right. They were forced to work. They couldn't opt in for unemployment to stay in the safeties of their own home. They couldn't afford those freedoms. They were forced to work. And whether you believe in the COVID or not, doesn't matter. Look, the way the financial system's structured, it's like you lose. You lose through inflation. You lose through being forced to work during a potentially deadly virus, which you may or may not believe. But ethically, was it right to force people under lockdown? Was it right to force these people to work? If we were truly free, we would have gave them that choice. And if the government and Fed can just print as much money as they want, don't we kind of lose access to these freedoms if we're not benefiting from like the government's actions, which most people don't if they don't own assets? Um, so yeah, I could go on and on, but I'm not gonna. But it just seems to me like we don't have as many freedoms as people do believe that we have, and I think we should fix it. But if we're gonna use you know assertion of freedom onto other countries as an excuse to like raid them and exploit them, then I don't think it's okay that we want to exert democracy and freedom onto other countries while we don't even truly practice that on our own. So yeah, with that being said, I hope you have a good day. This is just my opinion, and perhaps I'll look into this more. It's interesting